of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show with local celebrity hosts Steve O and Rene. Sit back each week while Steve O and Rene educate you with live in-studio experts, such as lawyers, doctors, home improvement, and financial experts in their field. Call in and have your questions answered each week at 888-565-1470. Now, here is Steve O and Rene with today's expert in
Good
their field.
afternoon, and welcome to another Ask the Experts. We are so excited today about our guest.
We're always excited, but especially today.
Especially today. I'm here with my co-host, my beautiful co-host, Rene.
Sucking up, huh?
You bet. Every minute I can.
Smart man.
Listen, I suck up to Freddie, too, our production people. Why not? I know who helps pay our way, right?
I think you should suck up to Spencer right next to you.
Oh, I am. Listen, I totally. So anyway, Rene and I develop Ask the Experts because there is so much information, educational information, that we never get in, and we work in the areas of health, legal, financial, and home improvement. Today probably fits into a little legal, a little financial.
Mostly legal.
Yeah. We are so blessed to have the people that we have, the experts. So let's
Top in the field.
Oh, and if you want to watch our show right now, because we are live in studio, go to www.www.
Stop with the W's. It's WWNN-TV. WWNN.com, and you go onto the left-hand side of the page, and it says WWNN-TV. You click on there, and voila, it sounds so difficult.
I love saying www.
I know, but you confuse people.
Anyway,
Okay, so let's
and if they
welcome-
want to call in,
Yes.
if you would like to call in and ask our first guest here, John Quirk, our phone number here is 888-565-1470. That's 888-565-1470. Now we can get to the business of the day.
Okay, so let's welcome private investigator John Quirk of Spencer Investigations. He's actually the marketing director. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
So we're so excited about today's show. We actually spent a couple of hours with you talking, and he's a very interesting man, by the way.
Gosh. To say the least.
Tell everybody a little bit of background about your company.
Okay, well, we have three companies. We have Spencer Investigations, which is a licensed Florida private investigative company. Then we have a company called Asset Location and Recovery, which mainly does international consulting in the area of white-collar crime and locating and recovering money overseas, money that's taken as a result of crime. And we have a small database called the Fraud Database. We have about 100,000 fraudsters inside that database.
Just in Boca.
He runs the whole gamut. He
I
really
know.
does.
I know.
And you've written books and articles, so tell everybody about that.
Well, I've written about 10 books and a number of articles. I write for the American Bar Association and National Security. I've taught 12 years in France at the Center for Diplomatic and Strategic Studies, about a year and a half in Turkey. I teach intelligence. I teach U.S. foreign policy.
And that's not to be intelligent.
That's not to be intelligent. It's the collection of information.
Yes,
both
we get that.
covert and overt. And then, in my private side, that's kind of my separate side of what I do academically. On my private side, we run investigative services, which runs the whole gamut of what we call today's private investigative world.
Wow.
You know, John has also testified to the Intelligence Committee.
House
Is that correct?
Intelligence Committee.
Testified before the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Dornan's committee on KGB operations in the United States. And I've taught at a number of federal agencies, mainly talking about intelligence, anti-terrorism, and how to collect information, how to legally collect both overt and covert information.
This is like big
I
time,
know.
though. It really is.
And John's taught on national security. And I mean, I bet I would love to know the stuff he can't tell us he does. That's the neat stuff. And you know what? I think you've done stuff against the mafia too. You've
No,
done
not
some-
really. I've never worked against the mafia, but
That's why you're still here.
Hey, that's
we've done cases against foreign intelligence services that are engaged in financial crime, or basically white collar criminals.
Now, let's talk about Spencer Investigations now. How long have you been in business?
Spencer's been in business for about 15 years, and it does several specialty types of investigation. It does due diligence, bank searches, and important background checks. And they do the whole range of investigative work. And the idea of a private investigator, the old idea was a Gumshoe or Humphrey Bogart or Philip Marlowe or a private detective or
Pink Panther.
detective. or worse, the Pink Panther. That's a bad example. But today, it's often referred to as corporate intelligence. And today's private investigator has access to very sensitive financial databases, background checks, sometimes better than even law enforcement or the intelligence community. What's happened over the last few years, if you combine phone lines, the computer, and databases, it makes it easier to get more information. But what we look for is information that other people can't get.
Right.
And I wanted to mention that. There's a lot of information on the internet.
Right,
that-
because you could go on the internet and get a background check. You could pay for one of those, but tell people why that's not a good idea.
Well, part of it isn't a good idea because a lot of the information is old.
Right.
They may give you a criminal background check, but not tell you that it's either a misdemeanor or a felony.
So let me just ask you something. If you live in Florida and you do a background check on somebody, does it show if they've had anything else in other states?
Yes.
Oh, it
yes.
does, okay.
Let me tell you, it's a good question. Let me tell you what a background check is. And a lot of people should do it with identity theft just to run their own background. It would give you all their associates, their relatives, if they've been involved in any lawsuits, automobile accidents.
Really?
If they have a criminal check, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, it would give you their phones, it would give you companies that are defunct, it would give you any lawsuits. That's called the general background check. Now, if you want to go further and deeper, you need a private investigator to say, okay, he had a felony for, say, running a Ponzi scheme. I need documents to prove that. A background check is basically intelligence.
Well, you're not going to hire them if you found that out, though.
Well,
Like if you're
it's
looking to hire somebody.
Well, let me tell you something. 1 out of 225 million Americans has a felony.
Right.
And the government has just started a program to expunge felony records because so many people have it. We do that too. We expunge felony records, but not misdemeanor records. But
That's interesting. You would think I would think misdemeanor.
Yeah, well, it's a government program that helps you get rid of the felony. Then the state either gives them forgiveness, expunges it, and then the most important thing for people is to get it out of the private databases. Because, let me give you an example. If you're arrested for shoplifting, and you're pulled into court, and you beat it, and you plead not guilty, and you're let go, it can still stay in the database that you're arrested.
Wow, that's crazy.
So you have to expunge that.
Yes.
Else, you cannot get, often it's difficult to rent a car, to go to school, to get an apartment, or get a job.
Right.
When we do a background, we get 40 to 50 pages on it, and we call that rather soft intelligence. People look at it and say, hey, that's good intelligence. How many UCC filings and so on. What that does is then lead to the next aspect of private investigation, finding assets.
Right.
Assets are banks, how much money you have in Merrill Lynch, and so
Overseas?
on. Overseas?
Can you find that out?
Yes, we find money in Switzerland, Caymans, Bermuda, Gibraltar, and we...
Maybe they'll find me some money.
and we observe the law in doing it. You have to be careful that the investigator follows the Privacy Act and the Banking Act. And there's a whole range of things that a private investigator can do that law enforcement can't do. And there are things that law enforcement can do that a private investigator can't do. And sometimes when you combine them, it makes a good team, especially in Florida here where there's probably 50 different kinds of frauds.
This is the scam capital of the world down here in South Florida.
Yeah, you were telling us that the other day. That's crazy.
There's investment fraud, Federal Reserve fraud, there's West African fraud.
So why is it so
you name
prevalent here?
It's prevalent because there's a lot of money. Miami up to Jupiter is like the new Casablanca. We have Latin America, it's the capital of Latin America. We have Russian mafia, Israeli mafia. We have people that cash out from New York and New Jersey and move down here and buy a nice house. We have a lot of money here, and unfortunately we have a lot of seniors, and there's a lot of senior fraud here. Fraud against seniors.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure.
The biggest fraud is investment fraud, okay? And there's probably 40 different kinds of investment fraud. Private placement, stock, real estate. Madoff, for instance, there were 15,000 victims of the Madoff fraud. 4,000 of them were in South Florida, where they lost everything.
Wow.
And the thing about hiring a private investigator, if they would have spent $1,000 or $2,000 to do a background check
On Bernie.
on Bernie or any kind of fraudster, they would find out that it's better to do a background check and spend a few dollars than lose $10, $15, or $100,000.
Right, so some of these senior citizens get letters in the mail that you owe money, or for investments, or they get phone calls, and they're not aware. So we have to make them aware
There's
of
a
what
new
to
one,
look
the
for.
IRS. People are getting emails from the IRS.
And the FBI, they do things. And you know, the West Africans send 10 million emails, texts, and letters a year. It's all out of Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and we've had prominent people and lawyers lose lots of money in these frauds. They're all frauds. And now the fraudsters, if you respond to them, they have the ability to get your email information, then your username and password,
Wow.
and get into your bank accounts. They're very sophisticated.
And also, you know what? I would think if a person's going through a divorce, hidden assets, I would think a company like yours
So
would
you
be-
handle that also, like forensic?
Right. I write articles for Family Lawyer magazine mainly on how to locate assets in divorce cases. Here's the triumvirate, if you will, when you're doing a case. A lawyer, a forensic accountant, and an investigator when you're doing a divorce case. But in the beginning, it's good to check out your lawyer. It's good to check out the forensic accountant, so you don't
So
spend
how do you
a
check
lot
them
of money.
out? Yeah, how do you check them out?
We do a background check. We
Oh,
check
you do that.
reputation.
Okay.
Yeah, we do backgrounds. We check their assets. In investment fraud, a lot of people come on. We've had people in Boca Raton that drive a big Jaguar or Bentley that have expensive suits. But if you do a background, you may find that they have $80 in their bank account. They really didn't go to the Wharton School of Business, even though they put it on their resume, and they've got a long history of defrauding other people. And there's so much money in the United States, and over the last 20 to 30 years, there's so much wealth. The proliferation of fraudsters has increased dramatically, and law enforcement can't keep up with it. Law enforcement tries to do the best, but they can't keep up with all the frauds. And the amount of fraud and the amount of money that is defrauded is increasing dramatically.
Now, your office, do you cover Dade also and Broward and Palm
Spencer
Beach?
Investigations covers Dade, Palm Beach, Broward, and then my company, 98% of our work as consultants is overseas. We locate and recover money in all the banking havens, Switzerland, Caymans, Guernsey, Cyprus, the Cook Islands. If the money has been defrauded and put overseas in a trust or a private bank, that's what we do. Spencer specializes in background checks, bank searches, which is very important, asset searches, and then very specific criminal background checks where we also get the records to prove that the person had a felony or a misdemeanor.
And
That's
you said
very
you-
important.
You said you handle expungements also.
We also expunge. We expunge felonies. We don't expunge misdemeanors. But if you're an employer, you should run a detailed background check, and I wouldn't recommend you go to the internet. There's a lot of internet, not scams, but the information is very old, it's inaccurate. You can pay $75 and get very bad work product. We issue written reports and detailed reports. And we do also research on the internet, but we call that soft intelligence. We like to get covert information. So if you want the honey, you have to get in the hive.
You have to pay for it.
You know what? We need to take a break.
Okay.
And when we get, I love listening to John. I just get mesmerized. I mean, I could just sit and all day long. So let's go to break, and when we come back, we have more with John Quirk. I'm excited about today's show. We'll see you on the other side.
Okay.
If you need a private investigator in Palm Beach, Broward, or Dade counties, call the top private investigating agency in Florida, Spencer Investigations. They are affordable and will meet your expectations and satisfy your needs and demands. With over 20 years of experience, Spencer Investigations specializes in locating missing persons, criminal investigations, conducts anti-counterfeiting, and surveillance. They also work in the areas of investment fraud, Ponzi's, and investment scams. Call Spencer Investigations at 561-305-2066. They also handle bank asset search, comprehensive backgrounds, corporate intelligence, and divorce investigations. Spencer Investigations provides diligent, dedicated, and responsive services that cater to the unique requirements of each of their clients. Their investigations are thorough, professional, efficient, and cost-effective. Spencer Investigations are licensed private investigators with an office in Boca Raton. Call them at 561-305-2066 or go to their website www.spencerinvestigations.com. License number for Spencer Investigations, Inc. A2500162.
Hi, I'm Steve O with the Ask the Experts radio show. Join my co-host Rene and I every Friday as we interview some of the most prominent professionals in Palm Beach and Broward County. Each week we combine educational information on a variety of topics with a touch of humor and entertainment in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement so you can be more informed. We offer interviews on such topics as family law, foreclosure defense, estate planning, sleep apnea, roof repair, funeral pre-needs, mold and mildew, alcoholism addiction, and even a show that teaches you how to buy a new and used car from one of the top dealerships in South Florida. If you have a business and would like to be part of the Ask the Expert show, contact us at 954-336-3767. Position your company as an expert in your field. Call Ask the Experts radio show at 954-336-3767. Be sure to catch our show every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. or watch our show live at wwnnradio.com and click on the WWNN TV link. And we are back with a special guest, John Quirk of Spencer's Investigation. Hey, John, let's talk about white-collar crime. How does someone know when to contact law enforcement or to contact a private investigator?
Well, law enforcement, it's a good question. Law enforcement is on the federal level, the state, and the local level. Local police now have economic crime units. FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, has a very good economic crime unit. And the FBI, our whole alphabet soup on the federal level does some type of financial crime investigations. You have FBI, Secret Service investigates counterfeiting of money, bank fraud, credit card fraud, Ponzi's. ATF investigates guns, transfers, smuggling. Secret Service, as I mentioned, investigates counterfeiting. You have the Treasury Department has their own investigators. IRS, Criminal Investigative Division, investigates white-collar crime. And the FBI, and I wrote a book on the FBI, I studied the 250 violations that Congress has them investigate. They really focus on 40 major crimes, but they do financial crimes, Ponzi's, and they develop cases of conspiracy, fraud, mail fraud, and money laundering. The problem is the FBI only takes now multi-million-dollar cases. or if there's lots of victims. If there's 2,000 Medicare victims, they will investigate that. But if you as an individual lose $250,000, don't bother going to the FBI. They won't take the case.
Can you ever get that money back if you're defrauded?
Yes, there's ways to do it. Now, on the federal level, you have a new type of asset forfeiture department, which was never around before. If you are found guilty of a financial crime and you are sent to jail, you are ordered to do restitution. That restitution before was very weakly enforced. Now the feds are enforcing it more and making people pay the money back. But
how do they do that if they're in prison?
Well, they do it. They do it by seizing assets. They do it by keeping in perpetuity the money that the person owns, even if he spends 20 years in jail. Or the person can cut a deal with the feds sometimes and get money from the family to pay other people back. Now, the economic crime units, they have a different level of quality depending on if you're in a big town, a little town. They may not have the trained staff to do it. They would investigate senior fraud. You know, if people are trying to rip you off on your driveway or selling you shutters or things like that, or embezzling money up to, say, $150,000. That's called capital theft. And there's a whole system that you do. But what people don't realize, you cannot just call and make a complaint anymore to FDLE, the FBI, or the Economic Crime Unit. You have to put it in writing. And that's where private investigators, especially our firm, we specialize in developing a casebook. We run a background, we find the assets, we obtain documents, we put it together in a package, and the client presents that to law enforcement. It saves months and months of time, because then law enforcement can look at it and say, hey, looks like probable cause, looks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's probably a duck, the guy stole the money. Or they may say, hey, you made a bad investment, you were dumb, okay? The guy didn't steal the money, he invested the money. Or he took the money and he paid his mortgage payment and he paid his car payment, that's fraud. Okay, so there are so many levels of fraud. People that steal $100 up to millions of dollars, and the local economic crime unit can handle some of them, the state police, and then the federal level. It all is based on the threshold. For instance, the feds prefer to investigate somebody that has a prior felony, that has stolen lots of money, and there's lots of victims. The economic crime unit prefers to have unbelievable evidence and documents to do that. Now, the private investigator can get a lot of that information before the police can. The police can subpoena bank records, but the private investigator
well, you're
can
going
run
after it
somebody's
directly.
bank.
Right, exactly.
We can find a bank account in about a week, okay? And as long as we do it legally, and every state has different laws on pretexting, which is human intelligence, on collecting COMO, toll calls, phone records, and then assets. Assets are not just real estate. You get that in a background check. Assets, how much do they have in the bank, the name of the bank, the address, do they have a trust or a Merrill Lynch? Is it a family trust? What's the name of the trust? Who manages the trust?
He's got it all down packed, let me tell you. Give everybody your phone number.
Yeah, our phone number is 561-305-2066.
You know, I want to say something because this is just bringing back memories. I sent like $25,000 worth of product to somebody. They sent it to FedEx. It was COD, had to be a cashier's check. They gave FedEx the cashier's check for $25,000. What we didn't know is the cashier's check was no good.
It was fake?
What I learned is they can make something look just as good, but here's the part where somebody like John's company could really take over. I called the FBI because it's across state lines. When I told them it was $25,000, they almost laughed at me. It's like, we don't have time to do that. And then I called the local police, and they told me, they're probably gone by now.
So what do you do in cases like that?
Well, you must hire an investigator who can put together the case file, okay? Most people think private investigators, like in divorce cases, just do surveillance or they wiretap, which is a felony. You can't wiretap.
Right.
And you can't pull somebody's credit. That's a felony, too. So what you have to do is you have to pretext people. That's been upheld by the court. Let me give you an example
Meaning
of
what?
pretext. All right, I would call you, but I would know you, Renee. I would do a background on you first. And I'd say, oh, you're from Philadelphia. Oh, you're of Turkish descent. I win you over. In the first 45 minutes, we become friends. The next conversation, you start opening up to me. You get more intelligence from human pretexting than database information. What a private investigator does is combine pretexting, bank searches, and background checks. You put that together in a case book, and if it's good, no police department will reject it. They can't reject it.
Wow, that's perfect.
But
you
you
have got
can't-
to hire someone like John. You really do.
Absolutely.
Especially if you have a big deal that you're working on, you want to check out the people you're going to be doing business with. If it's a divorce and you think your spouse is hiding assets, there's just
Or cheating.
same difference. But I mean, there's here we've gone 30 minutes and we've just like
Touched upon things.
touched upon.
Yes.
We've got and thank God John's going to be with us every month, which is really great. And next time we're really going to zero in on white collar. We're going to zero in. I know we're going to get calls today about divorce. My spouse, I think he's hiding. So we're not the ones that call.
Well, that's very prevalent.
Yes. So, I mean, and Spencer's investigation has been around for a long time. If you only
He
knew
is,
all
let me tell you
about John's
something,
background,
he is the expert. That's all I'm saying. He
only
really is.
the expert. And we just so enjoyed having you on with us today. It goes by fast, doesn't it? I told
Goes
John,
by
I said,
fast.
It goes
Enjoyed
by
it.
so fast. And I know this is the kind of show you're
Well,
going
give your phone number again.
Thank you. It's 561-305-2066, and our website is www.spencerinvestigations.com.
Perfect.
And you know what? If you want to watch today's show, go back to www.Renee. No, not www. Renee.
Thank you. I didn't know I had my own website.
www.nnradio.com. You'll see right in the left-hand side of the page it says WNN TV. Click there, and probably this evening it'll be up. Today's show will be up, but you'll have from now on you'll be able to go and actually watch the show. I would want to watch the show again. There was so much great information.
It really was.
And John's going to be with us every month. And we might even get John to do a national security show, because what's going on in this world right now is scary. And if you don't know that,
You need to know.
You've been hiding your head in wrong places. So we're going to be back in a right after on the other side from our commercial.
With Leader and Leader.
Leader and Leader, the most incredible criminal law firm. And we will see you on the other side.
If you need a private investigator in Palm Beach, Broward, or Dade counties, call the top private investigating agency in Florida, Spencer Investigations. They are affordable and will meet your expectations and satisfy your needs and demands. With over 20 years of experience, Spencer Investigations specializes in locating missing persons, criminal investigations, conducts anti-counterfeiting, and surveillance. They also work in the areas of investment fraud, Ponzi's, and investment scams. Call Spencer Investigations at 561-305-2066. They also handle bank asset search, comprehensive backgrounds, corporate intelligence, and divorce investigations. Spencer Investigations provides diligent, dedicated, and responsive services that cater to the unique requirements of each of their clients. Their investigations are thorough, professional, efficient, and cost-effective. Spencer Investigations are licensed private investigators with an office in Boca Raton. Call them at 561-305-2066 or go to their website, www.spencerinvestigations.com. License number for Spencer Investigations, Inc. A2500162.
Hi, I'm Steve O with the Ask the Experts radio show. Join my co-host Renee and I every Friday as we interview some of the most prominent professionals in Palm Beach and Broward County. Each week we combine educational information on a variety of topics with a touch of humor and entertainment in the apnea, roof repair, funeral pre-needs, mold and mildew, alcoholism addiction, and even a show that teaches you how to buy a new and used car from one of the top dealerships in South Florida. If you have a business and would like to be part of the Ask the Expert show, contact us at 954-336-3767. Position your company as an expert in your field. Call Ask the Experts radio show at 954-336-3767. Be sure to catch our show every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. or watch our show live at wwnnradio.com and click on the WWNN TV link.
When you need the most aggressive, intelligent criminal attorney possible in Broward and Palm Beach County, turn to the law firm of Leader & Leader, VA, with nearly 70 years of combined experience accrued by the Leader & Leader law firm, located in Fort Lauderdale. The criminal law firm of Leader & Leader has a remarkable track record. They develop a close working relationship with each of their clients prior to deciding how to proceed with your case. They are always available to their clients. This is very important when you are involved in a criminal case. At Leader & Leader, they offer every type of criminal defense possible, including DUI law, federal drug charges, or even shoplifting offenses. Their team consists of attorneys who used to be prosecuting lawyers, which gives Leader & Leader insight into strategies that the DA's office might use. You have rights. Unfortunately, those rights are not always upheld within the legal system. Let the criminal law firm of Leader & Leader, PA, explore all your options. Call them today at 954-523-2020. That's 954-523-2020. Or go to their website at criminallawleader.com. Do not take chances when it comes to your freedom or the possibility of prison time. Call them today for peace of mind. 954-523-2020.
And we're back from private investigator
To criminal attorney.
to criminal attorney.
I love it.
I know this is like going to be the best show, hour-long show each month. We have, I think, probably one of the finest criminal lawyers in, I'm going to say Florida. We have with us...
You're being very bold.
I know. Even though his practices Broward, Palm Beach, and Dade.
And all over the state.
Okay.
Oh, okay, great.
We've got Michael Leader of Leader & Leader Law Firm with us today, and today's going to be about DUI law, because that's probably the biggest question. People never know when it's going to happen. Well, you
Especially
should.
as a holiday weekend coming up. But welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
If you have a question for Michael, and it doesn't have to be just about DUI law, it can be anything that has to do with criminal law, you can call us at 888-565-1470. And if you'd like to watch the show live right now, you can go to Michael's website at www.criminallawleader.com. You can watch the show live, or you can go back later on and watch
the show
today's
afterwards,
show.
yes. So let's start off by telling everybody a little bit about your law practice.
Okay, perfect. My father's been a lawyer for over 64 years in South Florida, and I've grown up around the practice of law my entire life. I've been doing this. I started with as an intern at the state attorney's office back in 1997-98. I was with them as an attorney. I left there in 2002, and I've been doing defense work ever since. My practice is predominantly dedicated to the art of defeating or preventing criminal and DUI cases, and there is definitely a distinction between criminal cases and DUI cases, although DUIs are criminal, which sometimes people don't realize.
So you specialize in that?
Florida Bar doesn't let us use the word specialized, but
okay.
That's our word.
Okay.
But I dedicate a profound amount of my practice to the art of handling DUI cases.
Right. That's important for people to know.
So what all types of cases do you handle besides just DUI?
We handle everything from minor traffic criminal offenses to major federal drug trafficking cases. In fact, I have a case that just resolved that I was working on with another lawyer out of New York, and it involved a lot of the guys at JFK from American Airlines that were taking bags and smuggling drugs. It was a huge conspiracy off of the
I
airlines.
remember hearing about
Yes.
that.
Well, the arrests were made over the course of about 5 years. Unfortunately, my client was a small player, but was picked up right before the 5-year statute of limitations, and the investigation had been going on for a while, and we ended up getting his case resolved, time served to another matter, He, unfortunately, same client had some mortgage fraud cases down here, which is a hot topic. Unfortunately, he was really kind of victim straw buyer in that case, but because of what he was facing in New York.
It's always the wrong place, the wrong time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's the bottom line is people say to me all the time, they say, how do you represent criminals? And the reality is the majority of my practice are good people. They have drug or alcohol problems. They have mental health problems. They do silly things out of desperation. Sometimes it's younger people that are just immature, do stupid things.
So you handle juvenile cases as well?
Yes, we do. And
Wow.
I would say a large percentage of my client base is probably between 23 and 38
That's
with
not
drug and
considered juvenile,
alcohol.
right, yeah.
No, right, that's above juvenile. But
Yeah.
I'd say I do have a lot of people in that age range, above and below. But the bottom line is it's, you know, there are a lot of people that get caught up in the system and you wouldn't expect, and they're good people, and they're not continuous repeat offenders, but they need help just like everybody else. And a lot of
Absolutely.
times they think, oh, well, I have no history. I'm just going to show up to court and this is just going to be taken care of.
And it's not.
It doesn't work.
Right.
Listen, I have a client right now that has a prescription for the pills that he was found in possession of. He had a public defender. 7 months later, his felony charges are still pending, and we're fighting to get the right prosecutor to look at the right paperwork to dismiss his case. And he thought he could just show up and show him the prescription and it would go away, which you would think it
Wow.
should, but it
Scary.
hasn't.
Wow. So tell us how you approach cases, say, different than other attorneys, because there's a lot of attorneys out there, and it's one of those things that you could really end up with the wrong attorney.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I think that especially in the area of like personal injury and criminal, you have people that are not sophisticated business people necessarily. They're not around and don't know a lot of lawyers. And here all of a sudden they have to go out and hire a lawyer. And I do not envy anybody in that position because it's almost an impossible task.
Well, I would say even more so in a criminal case.
Absolutely, absolutely. Much more so in a criminal case.
Yes.
And the reason is this. You could have a buddy that say, oh, you know what? I had this lawyer and he got my case dismissed. He's the best. Go use him. And the reality is the guy that they used may have just literally gotten lucky and fallen on something by mistake, got that case dismissed, maybe a terrible lawyer, and this client's telling people, oh, my lawyer's the best.
So how do you know how to choose?
The problem is you really don't. If you have a friend or family member that has a connection to the criminal
Go to
justice
prisons?
system, well, no, but they have a connection. Maybe they know somebody that's a judge or somebody that works in a courtroom or somebody that's a police officer. I mean, I even get referrals from police officers that I've met on the job defending cases, met them in the process, and I've had officers that I've had cases that I beat their case, and they refer their own family and friends to me. So, I mean, you never know, but the bottom line is they need to interview people. They need to ask questions. A lot of times people shop by price, and I'm not
No,
saying...
that's not smart to do.
No, but you shouldn't also assume that the highest guy is the best guy either.
Of course not.
But it just needs to be one of several factors. And what I tell my people that meet with me, at the end of the day, is you should meet with a couple lawyers, not too many and drive yourself crazy, but you should meet with a couple lawyers that have a focus or an area in what you need. And at the end of the day, the reality is you're going to have to make a gut check. You're going to have to go with your gut on who you think. And the problem is a lot of lawyers are really good at selling people. There are certain tactics that I don't follow. Like when I left the state attorney's office, I said to everybody I know, how do you figure out what to quote a case? Because normally in criminal, they're flat fee cases. Every single person I asked had the same answer, which was appalling to me. How much can you get?
Wow.
Every person, the ones that I respected and the ones that I didn't. It blew my mind. So
how would you do your due diligence then on hiring a criminal attorney?
You know, you got to do research. You got to talk to people you know. You got to look online. You can look at user reviews, things like that. But even those, a lot of times, are fake and fabricated.
User reviews. Where's that?
I now just recently added some to my website. But for years, people have been telling me that they found me online, and I don't advertise, so I was not anywhere specific.
He really
that I knew
doesn't.
of.
He really doesn't. He's
And-
actually turned us down before.
Well, thank God I haven't had to look for a criminal attorney.
Yeah.
But just in case, you know, I need to know.
Because you never know.
Right.
So they tell me that they found reviews from other people that I've represented that placed them places. I don't even know where, but I've since found out that other lawyers have people that they pay to place these reviews, and they're not even real.
Exactly.
So sometimes you don't know. I think one of the things that I bring to the table to people is that I have really strong credentials in the sense that I've been involved in my legal community. I'm the board of numerous voluntary bar organizations. I'm on the board of director of the Broward County Bar Association. I've been honored in numerous different ways, certain magazines that recognize lawyers. I've been honored by the local bar associations. I've served as president of one that's made up of judges and lawyers in the community. So I think when you see that type of stuff about a lawyer, it gives you a clue that maybe the real deal. I don't have any statistics to back this up. It's an approximation. But I feel that 80 to 85% of the people that do what I do in South Florida are either borderline incompetent or just don't care. So once they get
That's
the
a
money...
scary thought, though. That really is.
That's my own personal observation
Right.
as a prosecutor and defense lawyer. There are people that care that don't have the skill and experience, or the people that have the skill and experience but don't care anymore and they're burnt out.
Wow.
So you got to find somebody that not only has the skill and experience but isn't giving you a dog and pony show and is going to fight for you and that knows how to fight for you.
Right.
And you need the full recipe or you're going to be in trouble.
Even to be a litigator, to go into court for you. I mean, they have to be
Absolutely.
a good litigator.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about DUI. Let's talk about if you're ever pulled over. Probably the biggest question is should you take a breathalyzer?
Number one question I'm asked, and there's no absolute answer. And the reason is this.
Do they make you take a... I mean, can they actually force you to do that?
First of all, a breath test should not be requested until they've lawfully arrested for DUI. So you're already under arrest for DUI, number one. And you can decline the breath test, but if you do, it has penalties associated with it, like a license suspension that you may face anyway. But for example, I can't tell people blanket advice because if they've ever previously refused, about 8 years ago, give or take, they passed a law in Florida that if you had a prior refusal and you refuse a second time, that's an independent crime for refusing a second time.
Wow.
So I can't give blanket advice to just refuse because then I'm telling you to potentially break the law if you have a previous refusal. And the bottom line is, if you are out to dinner and you have one measured drink, for example, you have a bottle of Bud Light with a steak dinner, I would say go and blow all day long. You're not going to blow over. You're going to be fine. The problem that people get into is this. We talk about drinks as glasses or cups. And if you are drinking a mixed drink, for example, I had a client come in and say, I don't understand. I only had 2.5 Long Island iced teas in 3 hours.
Those are strong.
And I blew off the charts. Well, he knows the bartender. It's a local bar he goes to. And there's 3 ounces of alcohol in at least each one. And when we talk about a drink, we're talking about 1 measured ounce of vodka or whatever your drink of choice is. So when you have a mixed drink, it may have 3, 4, 5 ounces of liquor in it. You had 1 glass, but you actually had 5 drinks. And people don't realize that. And unless you know what's in your measured drink, unless you know what you've had, I generally will tell people, if you think that you, more likely than not, you're going to blow over, if you've never refused before, it may be in your best interest to refuse in terms of defending the criminal case. However, there's also a separate, when you get arrested for DUI, you have 2 separate cases. One is criminal with the state, and another one separate with DMV. Now, your license can get suspended in both cases, but the DMV suspension, and this is why you need to hire a lawyer right away, you have 10 days from the date of your arrest. If you don't challenge that administrative suspension within 10 days from your arrest, it's on there.
License?
It's 6 months on a breath over an 08, and it's a year on a refusal for a first refusal, or 18 months for a second refusal. Now, they have some new programs. They started last year a waiver program where you can waive your right to contest it, and you get a business purpose license for the entire period of your suspension.
Which is
hardship, some type of hardship.
Right. You can drive for necessities of living, to work, to school, to medical, things of that nature. So often when clients call me, I tell them, look, it's not necessarily as much a legal decision as a practical one. If you live 30 miles from your job and you have no way to get to work, if you have a 30-day or a 90-day period that you can't drive at all, what are you going to do? Can you exist? Can you survive losing that job? Or do you have kids that you have to get to school and nobody to help? Everybody has their own personal issues, and that's one thing that I do that I don't think a lot of other lawyers do, at least that I've seen. And there are a lot that do. So you
file for the hardships.
Well,
but that's not a first offense?
Well, yeah, on a first offense, the waiver, if they're not eligible for the waiver, we'll file it. But I think a lot of lawyers do the hardship hearings. I don't know that all of them know how to do them well, but what a lot of lawyers don't do is individualize their cases to their clients and personalize it to their client's needs, their client's risk level and adversity, what they're willing to expose themselves to, what they're not, and what defenses may apply to them. There are too many lawyers that I see just take kind of a cookie-cutter approach to every case, and I don't think you can practice law that way.
24/7? You're available?
Much to my wife's chagrin, yes.
It's almost like, listen, it's almost like being a doctor, but this is really important also, because if you go to prison, you want to be able to call somebody in the middle of the night and get out.
I've had people call me that are being stopped. I had an existing client that we won a case for. It was 3:30 in the morning on a Saturday, and she called me because she was being pulled over and she knew she had some drinks. No, I can't tell them to lie. I can't ever advise somebody to interfere or destroy evidence, and I would never do that. But I can help give her or he or she the best advice as to how to handle the situation. We've done that for clients many times at all hours of the day and night.
Let's go to break. When we come back, I want to talk about the different types of tests they give you. What should you say if you're arrested or not say? I think that's very important. We'll be right back.
When you need the most aggressive, intelligent criminal attorney possible in Broward and Palm Beach County, turn to the law firm of Leader & Leader, PA, with nearly 70 years of combined experience accrued by the Leader & Leader law firm. Located in Fort Lauderdale, the criminal law firm of Leader & Leader has a remarkable track record. They develop a close working relationship with each of their clients prior to deciding how to proceed with your case. They are always available to their clients. This is very important when you are involved in a criminal case. At Leader & Leader, they offer every type of criminal defense possible, including DUI law, federal drug charges, or even shoplifting offenses. Their team consists of attorneys who used to be prosecuting lawyers, which gives Leader & Leader insight into strategies that the DA's office might use. You have rights. Unfortunately, those rights are not always upheld within the legal system. Let the criminal law firm of Leader & Leader, PA, explore all your options. Call them today at 954-523-2020. That's 954-523-2020. Or go to their website at criminallawleader.com. Do not take chances when it comes to your freedom or the possibility of prison time. Call them today for peace of mind. 954-523-2020. And
we're back. God, this is...
It's a learning experience.
We could go hours doing a show like this. So, the biggest question, I always see these little cards. What do you say if you're arrested for anything? So,
nothing? Should you say nothing?
Yeah. The general rule, I will tell clients all the time, less is more. And if you are in a situation, you may not want to say, and this is more in the federal cases, you may not want to say, I'm not cooperating, I'm not saying a word. You may not want to close the door yet. But you may want to say, look, I may be able to cooperate, you know, I'm happy to talk to you, but I need my lawyer present. And the bottom line is you don't want to necessarily close the door, but you don't want to say you can cooperate. You don't want to say you do know anything. You don't want to say anything until you've talked to a lawyer. Now,
so that's what you should say, though. I just need to speak to my attorney first.
Yeah, just say, listen, I want to cooperate in any way I can, but I'm uncomfortable doing anything until I have an opportunity to speak to a lawyer, which I think anybody can understand. The problem is, in DUI at the roadside, you don't have the right to an attorney necessarily.
Right.
But, you know, I tell people if you're not comfortable and you're not sure, even if they tell you don't have the right, you can let them know, listen, if you feel you need to talk to an attorney, you say, look, I understand you're doing your job, be polite and cooperative with them, but tell them you're going to respectfully decline to do anything if that's your decision, and everybody's going to make their own decision. But if your decision is you don't want to do anything, you tell them I'm going to respectfully decline until I can talk to my lawyer. You do what you got to do. I feel if you think you're being wrongfully accused, you say, I feel I'm being wrongfully accused, and until I talk to my lawyer, I'm not going to do anything.
Because they do more than just a breathalyzer.
They do.
Roadside tests.
The process is generally this. An officer will stop you, and they'll notice, and typically they'll say that they notice the odor of alcohol and bloodshot water to your eyes. Sometimes they'll add that they saw slurred speech or a flushed face. Some police officers I deal with are really good guys and really honest, and there are others that I've dealt with as a prosecutor and defense lawyer that no question on my mind fabricate or write the same report in every case.
Yeah, because you could be tired, you know, and just be slurring your words. You can be exhausted. Sometimes that happens to me.
I slur my words all the time. I don't even drink.
There are studies that people who have been awake 17 hours or longer can start to exhibit the same or similar signs.
That's what I'm saying.
Consistent with alcohol impairment. And we've won cases with that theory and those defenses, absolutely. But there can be a million reasons. People could have medical problems. They could have. I have a client right now that's going through, two clients right now. They're arrested for DUI. Should never have been arrested in either case, in my opinion. And they're both going through treatment for cancer. So are they going to seem tired and fatigued and have balance issues?
Yeah,
you know, they're both going through major stressful, traumatic treatments on their body. You know, so those are going to be big factors in that case, for sure. But the bottom line is, once they get you out of the car, they're going to generally ask you for roadside exercises. This becomes,
and it's not Pilates.
No. The funny thing is, these are exercises that are not really to test your performance, but they're supposed to be able to measure your ability to divide your attention between multiple tasks, under the theory that when we drive, we're dividing our attention between the speed and the road signs and the other traffic, people in the car, etc. I personally think that these exercises have some validation studies to them, but there are very few people that really know how and can implement them properly and interpret them properly.
Like
and use
walking
them.
a straight line. They still do that?
It's
Because
called
I
a walk
can't
and
do
turn.
that. No, I'm just
Yeah.
saying I can't do that on a normal basis.
But here's
Forget
the
if I have
deal.
liquor.
They tell you that they want you to measure they're talking about your normal faculties, and the jury's going to be told your ability to hear, see, walk, talk, and otherwise act in emergencies, and they have you walk in a line heel touching toe. Who in their real life ever walks heel touching toe?
Nobody, that's what I'm saying.
So it's so unnatural.
You can tell I watch a lot of Cops.
Yeah. Listen, I will tell you honestly, I had one of the DUI task force members from the Broward Sheriff's Office administer these exercises to me in the office in the middle of the day when I was a prosecutor, and he laughed at the end. He said I would have taken you to jail.
Oh, that's scary. That is definitely scary.
So,
Speaking of scary, let's scare people a little bit. Tell people if they're pulled over for DUI for the first time, what kind of penalties they're looking at, second time. And I know it probably has to do with the judge, too, and the attorney.
well, it's an interesting question because DUI, and the reason I said DUI is separate from any other area of criminal law, is not only does it have a separate set of scientific evidence and approaches to it that you don't have in any other criminal case, as well as defenses that many great criminal defense lawyers that don't do a lot of DUI I see in court miss major defenses they could have used to win their case, but it has its own penalties. Typically, in major felony cases, and depending on what you score on your point system, you can score mandatory prison or have minimum mandatory sentences on major felonies, drug trafficking, things of that nature.
So wait a second, point system. So what is that, from the breathalyzer?
No.
So explain
Getting
what
a
point
little
system
off
is.
topic, but basically, on felonies, they have something that they use. They assign points to your offense and your prior offenses, and if you score a certain range, you can
Oh, I
score
get it.
mandatory
Okay.
prison. DUIs, unless there's serious bodily injury, you have 3 or 4 of them, depending on the timing of the 3 or 4, or somebody dies, they're typically misdemeanors. When nothing bad happens, they're typically misdemeanors. So,
Go to jail, though, when they're...
absolutely, you can face up to a year in jail per count if there's multiple counts.
For your first DUI?
Theoretically, yes, absolutely.
Wow.
That's scary.
You do face jail time in any DUI case. Now, on a first offense, without anything aggravating, a lot of lawyers, you can go to jail, try to scare the client to come in and hire them right away. The reality is, in most situations, they're probably not going to seek jail time, but it has minimum mandatory penalties that no other misdemeanors have. Most felonies don't have the type of penalties that DUI has in Florida, and it's crazy because it starts with a mandatory adjudication, meaning that you will be convicted, you can never have it sealed or expunged, and you can never have anything else sealed or expunged in Florida once you have a conviction.
So that stays on your record.
Forever. You'll have fines and court costs that can reach thousands of dollars. You'll have to do a DUI school where they normally require counseling sessions. They can make you put a device on your car to blow into to start your car at your expense of a couple $100 to install and over $100 a month to maintain. That you can have that for anywhere from 6 months to 2 years or longer, depending on the situation. There's community service hours, victim impact panels, mothers against drunk driving classes, probation, another license suspension.
This is just from the first offense. That's
First
crazy.
offense.
I am never driving again, even if I have a sip of wine.
well, listen, this is a significant way that I do make my living, but my first advice to everybody, I don't care what the situation is. I don't care if you're poor and it's a $100 cab ride. It's always better to take the cab or use a service, make arrangements. The bottom line is DUIs are not about what happens typically. It's about what could have happened. I'm involved in DUI manslaughter cases right now where my clients are the nicest people in the world. One of them has no criminal history. One has one minor prior in his lifetime. And they both were, 2 people I'm thinking of right now, were involved in accidents with somebody on motorcycles. They both died. In both cases,
that's
it probably
crazy,
wasn't
yeah.
their fault. And now they're looking at a minimum mandatory 4 years in prison up to 15. Their lives could be destroyed because somebody died and it wasn't even their fault. But the causation in DUI manslaughter in Florida is all the state has to show is that you were impaired, meaning you were either impaired, you were over an 08, and that you caused or contributed to the cause. So even if you didn't cause the accident, but if you contributed, they could find you guilty of DUI manslaughter, and it's brutal. It just destroys people on both sides, the victims and the people accused, and their
Give
families.
everybody your phone number.
Absolutely. I can be reached 24/7, as you said, at 954-523-2020. and we're happy to answer questions. We offer free consultations, and
That was my next question. Do you offer free consultations?
we absolutely do. Not at the jail. If somebody wants us to come to the jail, they'll have to make some sort of financial arrangement, minimal.
Well, obviously, if they're in jail, they have a problem, so they have to hire an attorney.
Well, some people just couldn't get a bond or couldn't bond out, but the time process of going to the jail to meet people can take hours. But over the phone and in office, we offer free consultation in our criminal cases, and we're happy to do it. We're happy to spend the time and help people and their families, not just with beating their case if we can, but our goal is to get you the best possible outcome, but to help you and your family through the entire process as well. We'll also file documents that let us appear in court, so you don't have to worry about missing work and coming all to the ministerial court appearances. So we can make a big difference, not just in how this case weighs on you, but also in the outcome for our clients and our track
Absolutely.
record.
Give everybody your
website
address.
again,
I was
too.
going to say his address as well.
I will say that we unfortunately had some technical errors. They lost a lot of content on our website, so lots being redone.
Can I tell you something? You got a wonderful website. I spent a lot of time on it today. Looked really, really good.
Thank you. A lot of my content that we had rewritten, there was somebody that left the company that I'm working with that managed it for me, and they lost a lot of that. So some of the stuff up was old. We're getting that fixed, but it's Criminal Law Leader, www.criminallawleader.com, and that's Leader. And we try to get some useful information, and like I said, we're happy to take your calls and help any way we can.
Okay, tell everybody where you're located as well.
My main office is in downtown Fort Lauderdale, about 3/4 of a block from the courthouse, but as I mentioned earlier, especially in the area of DUI, I'm hired all around the state. We have cases in Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, as well as multiple other counties throughout the state, and sometimes people are worried about hiring a lawyer out of town that isn't local, but I've had great results for our clients out of county without a problem.
Perfect.
This could be a 2-hour show easily,
can.
but we will be back next month with Michael Leader. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Have a wonderful weekend. Do not drink and drive if you haven't learned by listening to our show today.
That's true.
And we also want to thank John Quirk and Michael Leader of Leader & Leader Law Firm. Everybody have a great week. Peace and love.
We're out.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert Show with Steve O and Rene. Tune in every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. while some of the top local experts in their field from Broward and Palm Beach counties educate you in the areas of law, health, financial, and home improvement. You can also call our offices at 888-574-6999 to become an expert on our show. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not